We're rolling, so sync audio.
Rolling on a river.
So today,
we're going to be doing a review of our new favorite tires.
it's the best tire ever.
Yeah.
This is the setup. If you're gonna run tires on your dirt bike, it's gotta be these, you're doing it all wrong.
Yeah, so we both ran this tire, and we've both worn out a set. I'm riding a KTM 300, so like my experience I think is going to be a little bit different than yours.
Two-stroke.
Yeah, two-stroke.
It's two-stroke versus four-stroke. Yeah, no, but back up a little bit. So we've actually done a couple of tire reviews so far.
Yeah, we actually did it.
We had a favorite tire for a while, which we raved about in one of our most popular YouTube videos ever. It's gotten thousands and thousands of views, and we appreciate that.
Extremely dirty tire. The Metzler 6 days extreme enduro tire, which we'll talk about a lot
which we'll get to. We actually got coaxed off of the Metzler by a YouTube comment. I think it was somebody on YouTube said,
actually,
hey.
It was on the last video that we did about that tire,
right,
where some guy was like, hey, you know, I like the Michelin a little bit better than the Metzler. You should try it out.
Yep.
And so I did. I really liked it, and then you bought it. Your next one, you actually bought.
So I bought the Gummy version of it because I couldn't get my hands on the regular version right away.
You bought this one, which you wore out
we'll
in
talk about in a minute.
2 months.
I don't even know if it was 2 months. I could count the number of rides. Yeah, 2 rides is more like it. Which we'll get to. Not a terrible thing. We'll get to that.
Let's not give that away quite yet.
There's a reason for that.
And then you bought this same tire.
So what tire is this? This is the Michelin Enduro
Medium Enduro tire.
It's a Michelin Enduro tire. So we are running these on the rear. We're not running whatever the equivalent front tire is at this point. Do a separate video on front tires. So Michelin Enduro Medium. We've also run the Michelin Enduro Extreme, which is the Gummy version, which we'll do a comparison to. There's some pros and cons there. But we really like this tire. For those of you who have seen the Metzler review that we've done, we'll put a link here.
Actually, it'd be down there, but...
Well, also down there. No, there's a little...
Up there. It's right here. Yeah, it'd be here and down there. I don't know how YouTube works.
This tire is super similar to that tire, but we think has a better compound. So the tread pattern for these is the same.
Yeah, it's almost exactly the same. And actually, the interesting thing you find about these enduro tires is that almost every manufacturer makes this same tire. I know Dunlop makes this tire, I believe. Just about everybody does.
In terms of the tread pattern.
Yeah, in terms of the tread pattern. They're using different rubber compounds. Maybe the carcass of the tire could be a little bit different. I don't know about that.
Yep.
But the tread pattern's the same, and I really, really like this tread pattern. The only reason I was willing to try it is because it had the same tread pattern, and I knew basically what I was going to get. So it was like, what does it really matter?
You can see it at a glance, and we'll get into that. But but back to what you were saying. So you're on a 300 two-stroke. I'm on a new 500.
Both KTMs.
Both KTMs. That's the way to go, apparently.
Yeah, you've got the FMF, and you've got.
Oh, it's like kitted out. Yeah, it's geared. It's geared way down, so it makes a shitload of torque. The FMF and the Get ECU. So like it's a beast. It's about all you can get out of an enduro bike and not kill yourself. And it's actually really interesting to see the performance characteristics or the wear characteristics between the two bikes, because obviously the bikes put out power in a different way. I think both probably make equivalent power, let's say, but the low end torque in particular is going to be a little bit different. And you see that show up in the wear pattern. I've eaten these tires alive. You have too, but I think I've gone through 2 in the space of year 1.
Well, you went through the Gummy tire and the medium enduro tire in the time that it took me to go through this one. So, and I think your tire might be a little bit lower than mine is right now.
The one that's on the bike right now, it's somewhat similar to this one. Yeah, I think they're roughly equivalent.
So the terrain that we're riding is, well, it's a range of different things, right? We've got the mountains around here that are hard, rocky,
combination
dry.
Of like hard packed dirt and like rocks, mostly dry.
Yeah, and then we've got kind of the low-lying foothills, which are soft, loamy, it's like
the chaparral.
Yeah, perfect, like loamy dirt in the wintertime when it's wet, and then it's just like powdery silt in the summer when it's dry.
We don't ride it when it's dry.
And we also have the desert, which is just sheer rocks and rocks. We also ride the track, here. So we're doing some enduro cross style riding, some trials stuff. We don't do a lot of desert riding. I think the mountains are probably the hardest on the tire. Other than like hill climbs.
Well, and I don't even think like that the big hill climbs we do are in the loam. In Chaparral, they're not that hard on the tire, and actually that's where this tread pattern really comes in clutch. The desert destroys these tires, so we do a little bit of desert riding a couple of times a year and eats these tires alive. We do a camping trip every year where it's just, you know, that rock's been sitting in the sun for a couple 100 million years or whatever, and it just slashes the crap out of whatever you're running. It almost doesn't matter. So we run these out there just because that's typically what's on the bike.
Yeah,
almost
we're
always
not
come back damaged.
changing our tires to meet any kind of terrain. We're finding
far
one
too lazy for that.
good all-around tire, and I think that's probably an important thing to talk about too. Is like, what are we? You know, what kind of riding are we doing in terms of like, we put on one tire and we run it until it's done, and then we throw in another one. Sometimes we change
3 to 6 months depending on what kind of terrain we've been on, something like that, probably.
And what we're not doing is we're not doing motocross. We're not taking big jumps. We're not doing that style of riding. So the type of riding we're doing is very much centered around enduro, which is why we prefer the enduro tires, because they work really well for the kind of riding that we're trying to do. It's
probably worth noting too that we take a lot, like endless shit for running our tires way too low. I don't know why people are so aggressive changing their tire. I get it, but like I like to spend my money on, you know, other things. So, well, I mean, you'll see here this one compared to,
I would say that's
compared to the new, it's, I don't know.
That's probably about where I like to run it. Like I run it down to where the wear bar is.
Yeah.
You know? I think that's supposed to be a wear bar, but that's where I usually run it to, and then I never throw it away.
So I only bring that up because our estimate of like tire life or tire value is going to be based on the fact that we basically use them up completely.
Well, and for the purpose of this video, I think it's good to know how the tire is going to last all the way through its lifespan. Whether you're wearing it down to the very end or you're just like wearing out these little tiny divots here. And
this is where you get your best traction here. We'll change it right after that.
The edge is gone. No, we're not that kind of people.
Nope.
So the first video we did about the tires, the one about the Metzler tire, the thing that I really liked about the tire was that it provided really good mid-cornering traction. So basically what you have is a wide knob, narrow knob, wide knob, narrow knob, all the way around. And then you've got these sets of 3 mid-cornering knobs on the side here. Those basically act as a wing, right? Your tire rotates this way, and it almost acts as like a step into the corner, right? So as you're rotating, these things are pushing you.
It's a ramp, right? It's like a plane. It's turning you in.
Right. It's pulling you in to the corner.
Right.
Rather than it's not going to slip out this way, right?
Whereas it's each new tread block that hits the ground is basically stepped to the left or right.
Yeah. Right. Whereas in comparison to the tires that have the knobs that just go straight across in a pattern like that, and they don't have anything to kind of block in the gaps in between the knobs.
More likely to lose it in the corners.
Your tire is going to kick out from underneath you that way. So
it's also great side hilling. So similar concept, but when you're side hilling, having these step in like this is actually stepping you back up the hill as the tire rolls forward. And so rather than like slipping all the time when you're trying to side hill across, you can do pretty extreme side hilling angles with these tires because it's constantly walking back up the hill. Not like you notice the back end's not coming up behind you or anything, but it holds the line really nicely.
Yeah. And it also plays into the straight line driving traction, right? So you have basically what's a cup here. So these 3, the stack of 3 knobs.
Right, they're angled against the dirt for traction purposes, right?
These 3 knobs are basically cupping into the wide knob here. And so you've got, basically like a cup every time that tire goes around that's just funneling the dirt into that knob.
Grabbing a piece of dirt or like a pile of dirt and basically funneling it into the main knobs. A lot of what happens, especially when you're doing hill climbs and you're digging and really putting down power on this kind of enduro riding, you have to think about the physics of it. So you're actually, in some cases, you're gripping the earth and pulling the bike forward, but a lot of times the dirt's really too loose for that and you're just kicking the dirt backwards. And so you've got to move a volume of dirt. You're basically displacing a volume of dirt that's greater than the weight of the bike in order to move the bike up a hill. So you're going to take that section of dirt, you're going to funnel it back and kick it out with the main treads. And that's what's actually going to, do whatever tons of those rotations, and that's what's pushing you up the hill, basically.
Yeah, and I think we noticed that most on like the big hill climbs. That's probably where because I mean, other than, it's not like we're drag racing off of every stop, right? We're riding a lot of single track and then doing a lot of big hill climbs and soft dirt. So I think
It's when you feel it shoveling. So a lot of tires, especially desert tires, will have their tread blocks closer together. Not enough dirt gets in between those, so you can't shovel the volume of dirt. You're sort of scraping at the top of the dirt instead of getting a good hold and kicking that dirt backwards, which this tire will do.
And these work really well in muddy terrain, and there's that same kind of logic with the spacing of the blocks, and that they're not so tightly packed that it allows for the dirt to be flung out. Right. So it's like, there's a word for it, it's like self-cleaning, but it's like it allows for the tire to get rid of the mud, so that by the time it comes back around, it grips and has, you know, an empty space. Whereas if you try to do muddy terrain with a desert tire, it turns into a racing slick.
Right.
Your tire gets all packed up, and
I mean, effectively, you want these blocks far enough apart that each block is going to like actually plant into the mud, right? And
it's going to take a new scoop.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whereas, like, I mean, and I know that was one of the things that Metzler talked about on their website about this tire, and you can see, I mean, obviously the same thing would apply here.
This is the Metzler 6 days.
Yeah, you can see that the knob spacing is almost exactly the same. Like,
identical.
You stick these tires right next to each other, you would see like this same 3 mid-cornering knobs, and then the wide knob, narrow knob, wide knob. I'm not sure can't remember because I wore this one down so far, but like,
I think it was the same. I think it was gapped just like this.
Yeah, it might have been gapped.
It has to be because they flex for like cornering and stuff, I would think.
Yeah, that would make sense.
The rigid pad wouldn't, I don't think it would work.
So, almost exactly the same tire.
Yep.
Albeit just different rubber compounds, different manufacturers. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention about what we're doing with our tire or with our bike setups is we're running tubeless.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a huge deal because it allows us to
super low
run
pressure, right? What, 3-4 psi in the back?
I mean, I almost never managed to measure it, like the carcass air pressure anymore, but like I tend to try to run 4 in the rear and 6 in the front, so we're running extremely low tire pressures. And one of the things that I like about this tire is that
so we don't even do air pressure anymore. It's just, can you flex the tire like that with your hands?
Yeah.
Then it's good to go.
But one of the things you really notice with this tire is that you don't really see any signs of like cracking around the carcass, whereas like when you're running that super low tire pressure, some harder compound rubbers would start to crack, which is a nice thing about this tire.
If you watch these tires perform in like slow-mo videos or whatever, when you're on the way to the bike, you're sitting up on it and you hit an obstacle or something, this collapses almost to the rim. So this tire carcass is going to squish down to a third of that total height probably. So there's a lot of flex going on. Probably also worth noting, we don't do hardly any street riding on these.
It's only to the dirt and back home.
Yeah, very few street miles. I wouldn't do a ton of highway with tubeless, I guess.
Yeah.
At least not with this low air pressure.
Right, yeah.
Although I've done a little bit. Like some of the broken enduro rides we've got to get from one place to the other, and we've done probably 40, 50 miles of street in a day, and they haven't blown up yet.
Yeah, they don't seem to have a problem with it. It's definitely not where they were made to be used, but I've never noticed it.
Some people have asked us, like, hey, can you do tubeless in these tires, like on the street? I've cruised at 60 for 50 miles or something, 60 miles an hour, And
so they are DOT approved, which is...
This one's got the DOT sticker. Yeah, I mean, they're what, they have the bands in them and everything. Like, they're not flimsy tires. They're not coming apart on you.
Yeah. So that's a good segue into wear.
Yeah.
How these tires have wear down. So the reason I actually was interested in changing is running the...
Don't dump that shit out on my studio.
This thing has been sitting outside for like, I don't know, probably 2 years now.
Just for you, we have saved like 6 sets of old tires between us.
Yeah, this video has been a long time
it's
coming.
a year in the making, and I'm so thankful that we are finally getting this in shot.
Throw away these tires.
Throw all this old shit away, and I can change my tires.
Yeah.
And then Jameson can stop yelling at me.
Well, I don't think that's gonna happen.
No, it's not. I'll never have enough tread to satisfy him.
Yeah. So the reason I was interested in changing brands is what I've noticed about the 6 Days Extreme Enduro Metzler tire, this one, is that the rubber compound tends to chunk before it will wear down, whereas the Michelin tire is a softer rubber compound to the point where it doesn't chunk. Like you can see it pits, like the leading edge of these side knobs and even the mid knobs.
I mean, it does get torn.
They get torn, but they don't chunk. Like I noticed like with this tire on several of the ones, because I've run probably 10 sets of these tires. What I noticed is that the side knobs, these mid-cornering knobs, and sometimes the center line knobs would tend to chunk out. And so it's like you completely, at least on the terrain that we're riding on with harder rocks and things like that, you completely lose the value of that knob because 50% of it's missing.
Which is probably a side effect of us running these tires like dual terrain, right? So they're like, we should be running these in the hills here to do hill climbs, and we're also taking them up in the mountains and running them over rocks, and they perform okay, except the Metzlers were getting torn apart.
Yeah, I just think it's like an overall,
it's too hard of a compound for what we do, right?
Yeah, right. And I think they make 3 different compounds of this tire. This is the one I find on Amazon, right? The hard one.
It's the same. It's what they carry locally too. Like I don't know if they think that's for the desert or what the deal is, but that's.
Yeah, I just haven't been able to find the Gummy one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Same.
So
in the Michelin, we are able to find the softer compound, or they just make it soft or whatever. And it's nice because as you wear into these, you're actually wearing the tread sort of down evenly instead of like, the other one looks like you almost took a knife and just started scooping away at some of those side knobs.
Yeah,
and the side blocks, and then, your tire wears out much faster ultimately. You don't get the performance all the way through the life, and you don't get the same life out of it.
Yeah. Is there any difference between this, because this one came off of my bike, which was on the 300. Do you think there's any difference between this one and the one that's on your bike?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think,
other than the fact that it probably wears faster.
I think it wears, I want to say, let's call it 20% faster on the 500.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a function of the 500 puts down more low end torque. So when and I get grippy with the throttle, so you punch it on rough terrain in particular, the 500 is more likely to rip into the tread than 300.
Yeah. Right. Brings us to the Gummy tire.
Which brings us to the Gummy. So I loved the Gummy tire. I had this on for the Big Bear Trail Run, which we do here in SoCal. I had this on for some other mountain riding. I noticed there's a couple of Instagram clips, I think, where I'm chasing John up some single track in Big Bear, and it's kind of rocky terrain, and the back end of his bike slipping around, and I'm like nearly stopped behind him and able to just pull right through, and it's because of this Gummy tire. So I really enjoyed the performance of it, especially on rocks. It hooks up like ridiculously well.
You ripped the shit out of this thing.
So I ran this for the Big Bear Trail Run, which is 200 miles of rocks, or 140, whatever we managed to finish. And we'll get close up here in a second, but like, not only did they chunk, but they're like cut under. There's like an overhang where like the rock just took it and just ripped shreds out of this. I had this tire on the bike for, I don't know, 20 hours of riding, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you didn't even, like this knob right here is not even worn down. It is ripped off.
Yeah, it's just ripped off. So we did a lot of rocks. It was not the traction was phenomenal. Where I think this tire would really do super well is if you're riding like wet, slippery rocks, like in the bottom of creek beds where they're smoothed out so they don't have those rough edges. And if there's water in particular, I think this tire would hook up incredibly well and would actually get you through stuff. Short of that, the performance characteristics are pretty good, but like you destroy the tire so fast that it's like a one race tire. I mean,
you're gonna junk it if you're not running over like wash rocks and sand.
Smooth stuff. Yeah, they'll just go.
The interesting thing about the rubber compound, I just remember this when I twisted the knob, is like you can take this knob and almost bend it 90 degrees, and when you let it go, it's going to slowly return, which is super interesting. I don't even think you get that on this one. Like, this is a much harder knob. Like, I can bend it, but I can't get it to like turn. Like, this one is just like a full-on, and then it just slowly goes back into place. Like, it's such an incredible rubber. Like, I love that about it, even though it's just not meant to be on a big,
it's not
more four-stroke.
On a 500 on like desert shale, I literally like a couple of rides and I completely destroyed this tire. So
I would love to run this tire on my bike and just see if maybe the power difference and the performance characteristics of it and the way that it's not putting down, because like a four-stroke has a much more pulsating power, right? Because it
harder hits, fewer
harder
hits. Yeah,
right? And the two-stroke is coming basically every time it's coming around, it's getting that smaller amount of power, but it's pulsating more often. So you're getting more even.
So you ultimately get less of like a sudden jerk on the tire, and it's pretty significant because the two-stroke's going to hit twice as often with you know, 2/3 of the force or whatever, right? So
right.
like,
yeah.
But yeah, so and on the 500, you have, you know, half the hits, but they're ridiculously powerful. And so, I mean, trying to do like hard enduro obstacle stuff in the rocks on this tire, the traction was incredible, but I felt like every time I touched the throttle, I tore off another knob. So, it comes at a cost, which is fine if that's what you're in for.
Well, and depending on the bike you have and the terrain that you're riding, this might actually be a really good tire for you. You might find that this is just a little bit too hard still, like we're finding with this tire.
Yeah, if you're like, I imagine some of the people that we talk to, they're like up in Oregon riding like the riverbeds and, you know, slick logs and stuff. I would think this tire would do fairly well on some of the stuff we've seen. We just don't have it here. It never rains.
It'll do extremely well for the amount of time it lasts. So this tire... This tire is the Michelin Enduro Extreme tire, and this one is the Michelin Enduro Medium tire. So
and they have 1 digit difference in like the product number, so you can actually find both of these on Amazon, but you will not find this typically the Gummy version. If you look on Amazon for Enduro Extreme, you'll find the medium tire. So don't get confused. You got to go on Michelin's website, use their like tire locator, whatever product feature. Find the actual product number for that, and then go to Amazon with the product number and type in, you know, Michelin and then whatever the number is, and you'll find the Gummy version. And it won't say Gummy, it'll just say, you know, Michelin tire and the product number, and you'll have no idea from the description which tire it is, except you can match those numbers and you can actually get good deals on Amazon on them.
Yeah, this has to be the best tire I've ever run, all right? Every tire is purpose built. I think that's the thing when it comes to with everything when it comes to dirt bikes, right? You build your bike for a specific purpose, for a specific kind of terrain, for a specific type of riding, for the specific rider, and tires are no different.
And then you learn to ride it that way too. Like you like build your bike for you, and then your skill like adapts to match the way the bike's set up, and you overcome its limitations, and you take advantage of its strengths, and you like grow together. I mean, right? So what kind of tire you ride depends on you. And what you want to do and what you're used to and what you expect from them. And I think that's why everybody has like a favorite tire, because they get used to it. And ultimately, unless you ran 6 tires back to back on 6 days on the same terrain or something like that, I don't think that even like semi-pros could really tell a significant difference like between the Metzler and the Michelin, for example, or you throw an IRC on here or whatever. It's just not, it's not scientific. It's all like, I had good luck with this tire. And
I don't know about rubber composition. I think that's the big thing with wear, but I think you would notice the difference between tread patterns overall, because I've noticed significant. I've run some of those tires with those ribbed knobs going across the carcass of the tire.
Right?
Yeah, and you get or even the Moto Z tire that you ran right, in comparison to this. Like,
so that tire performed really well like out in the desert, but we do so little desert riding. I didn't get it. It didn't hold in corners for the loose dirt that we ride. Yeah. Right. So
I mean, I think that's really the biggest takeaway from this is great tire. Probably one of my favorite tires. Lasts, I think, really well for the kind of terrain that we're riding on. Somewhat hard hill climbs, enduro style riding with either a 2-stroke or the biggest bore 2-stroke, right? I guess except for the 500. So KTM.
Nobody makes those anymore. No,
Okay.
That's only Dennis.
Or a big bore 4-stroke. Like, they're going to work really well for both of those bikes. They hold up really well. They get really good traction.
Yeah. Excellent cost to value. I mean, these are 120, 140, depending on what day you buy it. No,
I think I saw them for 109.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what I bought that one for.
I mean, it's not bad.
And it's just on Amazon, so
you might get. We've probably squeezed 6 months out of one.
Yeah.
Right. I think this one's been on there for a while.
And that's fairly consistent riding. Yeah.
Since the summer. So.
Yeah. So.
And that's like every weekend riding, 6 months. I can't complain for $100.
Yeah.
And the characteristics that I need. Yeah. Cool. So why do we bother making all these YouTube videos? Mostly to help you guys out. We appreciate the engagement. We actually learn as much from the videos as we share, hopefully, because you guys come back with comments like, hey, try the Michelin, which we did and we loved it, so thank you. But the underlying reason is we make these GoPro chin mounts, custom designed for every helmet. So this here is a Fox V3, and you can see it's got a particular style to it. What you got there?
So we're changing up the material that we're printing them with now in the spirit of soft rubber. We're making these out of
not that kind of rubber.
Yeah, different rubber. we're making these out of a rubberized material, so it's flexible, whereas these are very hard and they do tend to break. So what we've done is
They don't tend to break. If you slam your chin into your handlebars when you go over the bars, you will snap our original mount in some cases. Tend to break.
So
try to make a sales pitch, John.
I should just get out of sales altogether. This is not my thing.
Just give up.
So these mounts will never break. I think that's the point.
Oh yeah, no, these are completely. You can slam your face in. By the time you break this mount, you've probably like destroyed your chin and crushed your helmet, and you aren't around to complain.
The link to these will be down in the description below. We'll also add links to these tires.
Well, so not every mount is available in the new material yet, so we are shipping these.
Well, they will be.
Time you see, eventually. But if you go looking now, if you really want a TPU mount, drop us a note when you buy. We've got maybe half the model shipping in TPU now, so we're working our way through. It's a production thing.
Links in the description below, and check it out.
Description below.